Should I watch it? I don't watch AGN's reviews. I don't really like them. I don't think they're doing the high quality job when it comes down to reviewing the games.
Of badass guns to loot and some of the most crass humor in gaming, the Borderlands games have held a special place in my heart since way back in 2009. But it's also a series that practically invented the looter-shooter genre, then saw itself fall behind the curve as a renaissance of RPG-infused multiplayer shooters dominated the space. With Borderlands 4, the team at Gearbox seems eager to take some big swings in hope of reclaiming the throne of firearms and shell casings they themselves built. And whether it's the greatly improved shooting mechanics, an interesting revamp to RPG mechanics, an entirely
playing on the console seems painful. He was missing a lot of shots.
The handful of hours I played,
like here,
an interesting revamp built.
He had so much time to throw that knife. And he still missed it, bro. Did he hit it? I don't see it. I don't think he did. Missed one. Missed the second one. That's funny.
An interesting revamp to RPG mechanics, an entirely fresh setting, a slew of new characters, or a more grounded tone in its story, the handful of hours I played left me fairly confident that I will find myself pulled back into this wonderfully weird world of psychopaths and extremely irritating robots. There's a whole heck of a lot of novel things Borderlands 4 tries, but the first thing that immediately jumped out at me was the focus on movement. I counted no fewer than 5 additional ways to keep your Vault Hunter in motion while hunting for treasure and blasting wild animals, including double jumping, gliding through the air, dashing from side to side, pulling yourself around with a grappling hook, and even swimming, which is especially great because dying every time one of my toes got wet was pretty annoying in the previous games. Each of these traversal options added an interesting dimension to navigating areas while sniping mercenaries and lobbing explosives in the faces of the local fauna, and also went a long way to speeding up how quickly I could close distance between me and the baddies in my path. That was a welcome change, because I'd always found—
I'm not gonna lie, like, I think I should be honest right off the bat. I'm not a huge fan of looter shooter games, and especially Borderlands. I played the first, second, didn't finish them. Played the third one, also didn't finish it. Though I played it with my friends, and the second one I actually played with my friends too. It's just not my thing. Like the idea that everything revolves around like collecting weapons and getting new weapons like every couple of minutes, switching them, increasing your stats instead of focusing on like unique gameplay mechanics, giving like the basic abilities to your characters, it was never appealing to me. The only thing I like about Borderlands is like in the second Borderlands they actually had a very good villain that I like so much, to the point where I went to YouTube to watch the entire like a story breakdown, what's happening, and just to know. And also I play also humor, and yeah, the story overall, I guess humor, story, and the characters, but that's as much as it goes. So I'm already kind of biased. I'm looking at this right now, and I'm not seeing myself playing this. Not because necessarily like the Borderlands series got worse, or it's just I don't like looter shooters. I think it's kind of almost brainless type of games where you do the minimum amount of engaging with gameplay mechanics and more of a just mindless shooting of enemies.
Myself pretty frustrated by how slowly I move in old Borderlands entries.
Here come the fireworks!
If there's anything worrisome about all these extra ways to get around, it's that there are so many of them I often forgot to use them. Being able to double jump, glide, and grapple hook across a room all in the same motion honestly feels like too much power, at least in the hands of a rookie like me who only had a few hours to familiarize myself with it all. By the end of the demo though, I felt a lot better about my ability to keep myself in motion while bringing my arsenal to bear upon swarms of monsters.
The console gaming, bro.
Feels like it'll take some getting used to. course, it wouldn't be a Borderlands game without the promise of a bottomless cache of weapons to discover, each designed to inject a little anarchy into combat. While I only got a small sampling of what's in store, there honestly weren't a ton of things I wasn't expecting, even with the additional weapon manufacturers introducing some new stuff. One of the new gunmakers, Ripper, seemed to have a lot in common with the COV weapons from Borderlands 3, as they need to spin up before they can be fired, but then pile on a heaping helping of lead into enemies. While Daedalus reminded me a lot of the doll weapons that offer multiple ammo types to switch between. The only distinct new type I got to try out was called the Order, which have an alternate firing mode, like a pistol I found that could create gravity wells instead of shooting normal bullets. Most of what I played was from pretty early in the campaign, and I only found a single legendary weapon during my travels, so it's fairly likely there are more surprises I haven't seen, but at least on the surface, I wasn't too shocked with what I found in that regard.
Make room for the boom!
Get built.
What seems significantly more distinct are the new build crafting options, including a healing item called a rep kit that can be used in addition to the usual pickups you find in chests and pick off the sorry corpses of your slain foes. These add an interesting dimension to defining your build.
Yeah. Oh my god, I cannot.
The item that offers you healing with the cooldown. But Boulder Vault Hunters might instead favor one that intentionally offers lesser healing benefits to instead grant some other effect every time the item is used. For example, I found one that caused a large explosion of cryo to explode around me whenever I used it, versus another that restored significantly more health and could be used twice before it needed to be cooled down. Depending on how risky you want to play it or the specific strategy behind your build, I could see this opening up a lot of doors for clever min-maxers to do some pretty fun stuff. Each Borderlands has a different roster of Vault Hunters to play, and this entry is no different. I got the chance to try out Vex, the magical siren whose main focus, at least with my setup, was in summoning NPC companions to help me fight off mobs. And Rafa, a soldier who had a bunch of high-tech gadgets to unload onto anyone stupid enough to get in his way, including some melee blades that made short work of anyone within arm's reach, or some shoulder-mounted cannons that automatically helped me lab folks in lead. It's always hard to tell just how awesome each of these bona fide badasses is going to be after just a few hours, but I was already very much heartened by the number of interesting options to pick from, and I already felt myself transforming into an arm-to-the-teeth instrument of death, even as low-leveled as I was. Also, some of the perks I saw...
Actually, what I see, I like it. There is already like a variety of different powers switching between... Oh my god, I cannot talk, man. My nose is just stuffed. But what I can see, the amount of powers and everything that you can do, it's pretty good. Except, like, I want to see more details about the passives. What I can see is like zero, like, let me see. It seems like these things, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and probably this one 9. So you have like the total of actually 9 different abilities. And it seems like you can equip maybe only 3 of them actually at the same time, which is unfortunate. But you have a few passives here and here. Not really, like, it's probably like this is plus 5 resistance damage or plus 5 resistance damage, poison resistance or poison damage increase. This is like how much you can lift, maybe damage from pistols, basic stuff basically. But 9 different powers for one character, and then there's 3 you can use at the same time. So you basically can come up with, oh, actually never mind, sorry, this is 9 for this type of build. I guess there's a build on the left side and there's a build on the right side. So I assume if he's gonna be switching, is he gonna be switching? Yeah, and there is 9 powers here too, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So a total of 9 multiplied by 3 is 27. 27 unique abilities. It's pretty good number actually, that you can come up with some very good unique builds.
disconnect Rafa's shoulder-mounted turrets to convert them into a stationary battle station. So consider me pretty hyped to try out a late-game build. Another interesting change coming with Borderlands 4 is the new, clearly darker setting and story. Taking place on a new world called Kairos, the world has been dominated by an oppressive, immortal being known as the Timekeeper, who controls the population using cybernetic implants. But naturally, the actions of the Vault Keepers in recent Borderlands entries, which I won't spoil here, has ruined the perfect, unjust order on Kairos, throwing the place into chaos and opening the door for you and your friends to shoot everything in the face and score some sweet loot. The change in tone is pretty clear, and even though you've still got the usual cheeky characters,
This is so far. It seems like the weakest pack of characters they presented. Like in Borderlands 2, I remember there was Zero, a robot ninja, right? Siren, a dwarf with the big guns, and a typical soldier. In Borderlands 3, there was another robot, I think, with a pet, a siren. What else? I don't remember. I don't really remember. But here we got only like humans, all 4 humans.
sexual innuendos, and
The
over
typical one big.
the top
She's probably like kind of smart, I guess. Like she uses some
There's
technologies.
also quite a bit of darkness and the beginnings of what seems to be a significantly more grounded story in play, which will hopefully wash away some of the shallowness found in Borderlands 3, specifically where the antagonists are concerned.
I think like the reason why people didn't like Borderlands 3 because like comparing to the main villain in Borderlands 2, the villains from Borderlands 3 just looked like nothing. They were completely not interesting at all. Because everyone loved what's his name? Jack. I forgot I forgot the first part of his name, but basically, handsome Jack, right? Everyone's so like invested. Everyone loved the character. Every person loved the story of Borderlands 2, and then in Borderlands 3, it was just really hard to like get to that level. Make something like a really good villain that people gonna be that people will be interesting to stay for and see how the story is gonna play out.
When I unleash my secret weapon.
It's also worth noting the intentional shift away from Pandora to focus on this new world. This combined with the fact that a lot of the cast is entirely new, at least in the sections I played, makes things feel a bit like a soft reboot that gives a fresh start to tell new stories compared to prior games that have mostly leaned pretty heavily on the locations and characters established in their predecessors. I'm all for this shift, honestly, because although Borderlands was my addiction for years, it's also pretty clearly been on its back foot as a series, as the looter-shooter space has both evolved and become more crowded.
This guy is not even shooting and doesn't do anything. Is he playing on the easiest difficulty possible?
Borderlands chase the games as a service model and fundamentally change what it is, but it's nice to see that Gearbox seems willing to take some sizable risks in pursuit of evolving the series, because I genuinely think it needs to do so if it wants to keep the attention of longtime fans like myself. That's not to say there isn't a ton of good, old-fashioned goodness inside Borderlands.
He doesn't struggle at all.
Quite the opposite. I still spent ludicrous amounts of time dabbing on loads of enemies who shouted expletives at me after running out of darkened spawn points, watched colorful loot explode out of enemies like fireworks, and ran dog-like enemies over with my vehicle, which is now very awesomely available to be summoned anywhere on the map rather than having to be picked up at a designated spawn point.
Convenience.
Thank God. There are also perilous vaults to be raided and massive badass bosses to take down in the name of loot, XP, and bragging rights, which I unfortunately
I'm watching this gameplay like already for 8 minutes, and not a single time I see him struggle. He died once somewhere like in the beginning, I think, but I don't know exactly how it happened. But from what I'm seeing, he's just cruising around, having fun.
To showcase at this time. but I can
But
say
how is it you having
one
fun if you
boss
don't
I've fought a
struggle?
number of times
Look at this boss fight.
is perhaps the most mechanics-heavy and interesting enemy I've encountered in Borderlands. And if it's at all representative of the level of quality
Okay,
we
never
expect
mind.
from Borderlands 4, then we're in for
It's pretty
quite a
good
treat.
amount of
After
damage.
several hours dipping my toes into what is sure to be a massive looter shooter, I'm much more optimistic about Borderlands 4's odds of recapturing my affections after years apart. Stay tuned in the coming days.
But still,
when I'm
he's
allowed
not
to show
struggling
off
much,
some
to be
later
honest.
game
Enemies
footage
are
and a boss
surprisingly very slow, and
fight that I
he
took
doesn't
down a
even
number of
need to
times
dodge
in an effort to
projectiles
find
or
out some
anything.
unique weapons. Old habits die hard, I guess. What questions do you have about Borderlands 4? We'll do a follow-up video soon based on the questions
questions
you leave
I
in the
have?
comments below. And for more on the biggest upcoming games, check out our recent previews of
I don't know.
Outer Worlds 2 or Ninja Gaiden.
Again, not a super looter shooter fan. So for me, everything what I've seen here today, like in this video, is just boring.